How you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good.
I'm gonna fix my screen again.
No, no. Yeah.
Likes to cut off my head.
Busy day?
Never a dull moment is what I will say. Never a dull
Yeah.
moment.
But that's what you want, right? So,
I'm an adrenaline junkie.
okay.
I like to be busy and I don't sleep much, so
Okay, cool. So lots to talk about. So the
yes.
new, so I did talk to the premier this week, and the only thing he was certain about, the only certain answer that he gave me was I asked if Halton was going to go into stage 2 light. And this was before the color coded system, and he said absolutely not.
Wow. Well, you heard it
So
first.
yeah, but this was before the color coded system. But let's talk about the color coded COVID-19 response framework tier system. Okay?
Exactly what we asked for.
Okay,
It's
so
exactly what we asked for.
Halton is in yellow, correct?
Yes, yellow, which is protect, which is kind of a whole, they've sort of gotten rid of stage 1, stage 2, and actually had some additional categories. So what we're in right now really doesn't exist. It's kind of between nothing and stage 2 is the protect. And it's really, for us, nothing changes by way of restriction, but actually we get some additional permissions. And one of the key areas, for example, is around fitness centers. So if you look at the regulations in the Protect yellow module, which we are going to be in by Friday, I think at midnight, you can have fitness classes and you can have
Okay.
gameplay, but there's restrictions. So you will recall that we voluntarily ended fitness classes based on the advice and recommendations of our medical officer of health and to keep us out of rolling back sort of unilaterally into stage 2. But now that we have those guidelines, we're actually going to reinstate fitness classes in the city. We're working on a plan for that, reinstate gameplay. So actually being in Protect allows us to have more activities come back to us that were not there before. So that's good news. And really, when you look at the rest of the things that are in Protect, they're things that our businesses, our restaurants are already doing, or they're already in our bylaws, like a mask bylaw.
So let me ask then, did I guess you got the binder probably like 2 nights ago about all the rules.
Yes.
What does it
At
mean for
9:30 at night.
yeah, okay. So what does the new yellow tiered system mean for the gym then? Like, does it, I know for Mississauga, they have to be 3 meters apart, but they're on a
Yep.
higher level, right? So does
Yep.
that happen in Halton as well?
So the gyms were never closed because we at the city, all the municipalities voluntarily implemented changes, but we had no ability to enforce that voluntary action on private facilities. So, so they were never in Halton. The gyms were never closed,
Okay.
the private ones, and that created some consternation and obviously some confusion in the community, and thus that was part of why we did our outreach to the province and the medical officer of health is like, look, standard guidelines, standard regulations apply to everybody. Municipalities don't have the power to do it. We can voluntarily adopt it for ourselves. We can recommend it, but we can't enforce it. So we need some consistency. That was a really key part of what the public was asking us to ask on their behalf. Consistency across the province and or across a public health unit if you're in a different stage. So that's been achieved with the new framework. The criteria that they're making the decision on has been outlined, and it's a bunch of factors. So it's not just one indicator. Oh no, we've got active cases. Well, look at the hospital capacity, look at the R factor, look at all these other things. And it's not just one indicator that's going to, lurch you from one category to another. So that was a good thing. There's also language around extra enforcement. And absolutely, the community is saying, look, don't penalize everybody in a broad brushstroke because one gym or restaurant can't get their act together. Enforce and fine. So that language is in there too. So really pleased with what the province put together. And, you know, I like to believe that the five amigos, as we call ourselves, the four Halton mayors and regional chair, had something to do with helping that along. I'm sure we weren't the only voice, but we were certainly a contributor to that dialogue in a big way.
Okay. And this doesn't change anything for restaurants now in Halton either, right?
There are some additional, you know, there's some education and there's some language around masking if you are working in a place where the public is not able to access, but you're within two meters of each other. So if you recall, the mask bylaw that we did, that the region did, and the province initially did, was only in public facing areas. If you were in the warehouse or the prep room, you didn't need to wear a mask, but now that's changed. You do need to wear one if you will be coming into closer contact with other employees. So there's a few things like that. They're common sense, really, but it's what we've moved beyond, which is what we wanted to move beyond, is open or closed.
Okay.
We're now at you know, you're open with restrictions, and it's not going to be a day-to-day, week-to-week wondering if you're going to, you know, all of a sudden tumble into a new stage 3 category and be closed. So that it was that uncertainty, that inability to plan. So we'd have to have a sustained period of really not good indicators before we would be shuttled off into a new category. And our numbers are still trending down, right? We've had some spikes, but then again, today they're lower. Our hospital capacity is still, lots of hospital capacity. Our factor is still down. So though we're on the edge with one health indicator, all our other indicators are green. So at this point, I would say I'm not worried that we're imminently going to be flipped from protect into the next level, the orange category, which is restrict.
Okay.
But that depends on all of you folks doing continuing to do what you need to do. So please keep following those health measures.
Yeah, it sounds like Burlington's doing a great job. So now, in regards to, so one thing I've noticed is there's a discrepancy between the COVID numbers that the province gives and the COVID numbers the Halton Health Department gives. Why is that?
It's just the difference of the time frame cutoff. So one is posted at 1 p.m. and is current as to that, and the other is midnight and is current as to that. That's the simplest explanation. They just have different time frames that they're drawing the numbers from. So they're slightly different. Terribly confusing, I know, but that's the answer. And like everything with COVID, check back in 20 minutes, things may change. We're still living in that hyperspeed world where things can change. So the data is, when you have live data, it will, depending on the time of day you looked at it, it will be different.
Let's talk about businesses, because I know that there's major restrictions in obviously Peel. Toronto's not, they're waiting for another week. And in restaurants, they have to stop serving, or close at 9 and stop serving at 10, I believe, or reversed, but they have to close early. So are you afraid of or I guess, are the restaurants afraid that they might get a rush in the evening? Or are they just saying, come on over?
Well, what I've heard happening in some of the areas where there are tighter restrictions, like Peel, is that people are taking the party back to their house.
Yeah.
And that's risky because you don't have the same protocols potentially in your house. And then if people really end up partying and drinking and, forgetting about the need to social distance if you're not with someone in your household, that's where I think some of the challenges have been. It's not the establishment. So, we've talked about this before. We've always been geographically close to Peel. Yeah. We always will be, and our numbers have always been lower. So, and yet we know our community can and has to some extent migrated between the regions, but our numbers are still low. And so, our businesses, if they keep it safe for themselves and their customers, it doesn't matter really if their customer is from Mississauga or from across the street, it's safe. If it's safe, it's safe. So, so that's the main message, I think. And so could it happen? Maybe, but I can't see people you know, I can see people driving 45 minutes for their workout. Folks are dedicated to that, but are you going to drive, you know, 45 minutes there and back to get another beer, or just go home?
I did go to Oakville for dinner for the first time since March, so
Did
just,
you?
yeah, just a couple of days. It was wonderful.
You didn't come to Burlington?
I uh, I will next week, I promise. Okay, so it was so good seeing a human being serve, and anyways, it was nice. So, what does Halton need to do, or what does Burlington need to do to stay away from the upper tier?
Everyone needs to continue to follow the recommendations and or the restrictions. And it really depends on every single one of us doing our part. And Burlington residents have throughout this pandemic. Halton residents have voluntarily. I mean, we can, even if we make it a bylaw, we still have to get people to comply and follow it and do the right thing, because, you know, there's not enough bylaw officers in the land to enforce if you have a community that is determined not to follow those regulations. So our community is actually determined to keep themselves and their neighbors safe, and our numbers have reflected that throughout this pandemic and still do. And specifically in Burlington, when you look, when you take out the outbreak at long-term care, our numbers have really plateaued and are starting to come back down again. So we have very isolated, sort of that congregate living setting where there's been challenges. I think we got to do a better job to keep people safe. The virus is either coming into the facility, or when folks take their loved ones out into the community, they might be contracting it that way. But there are some, obviously been some restrictions. As soon as there's an outbreak, there's some automatic restrictions on visitation in or out, and it needs to be that way. So that's handled. And as we've said before, you don't need to shut down the entire economy to deal with that localized issue.
What's the latest on testing centers in Burlington? Is there anything going on there?
So we're doing really well in terms of people actually keeping their appointments, which is awesome. Thank you. That helps with system capacity and booking. When we talked a couple weeks ago, there were as many as 40% no-shows. That's down to about 10%. It's still too high, but it's gone in the right direction. So people are either canceling if they're not going to come, or they're actually coming to their appointment. That really helps us. Joe Brand is ending their drive up assessment because of weather coming, you know, winter coming. So you will still need to book an appointment in advance, but you'll be taken care of inside the facility. We have reiterated, so I was on a call with the Halton mayors and the Minister of Health, Christine Elliott, and Dr. Williams, a medical officer of health, on Tuesday, I think it was, when they gave us kind of a heads up review of the framework that was coming out, and when we gave them lots of positive feedback. But in that meeting also, I let them know, look, we were prepared to give you Nelson Arena. We still are. I don't know, you know, that was kind of taken out of the mix, but it's there if you need it. So we're ready and willing to give you the infrastructure for more testing if you've got the capacity to do it. So I think province-wide, they're still meeting those capacity challenges, but we are standing at the ready to partner and be helpful in any way we can.
Every week we talk about outdoor patio tents and other helps that the city of Burlington will give to the restaurants.
So we had a special council meeting on Monday, and we passed a couple of things. So we extended patio season in the city of Burlington till October 31st of 2021. So thinking way ahead. So as far as I know, we're the only municipality to extend it that far. Some had decided to do it till May, but we thought that's heading right into patio season. So let's just fix the rest of 2021. So we did that. We also created a winter control task force that would go out and review those patio tents. So summer patio tents are not the same as winter patio tents. Okay. Some of the winter patio tents that are going up are intended to really increase the capacity of the indoor dining experience. They have sides on all, you know, they're completely enclosed. There would be a heater in there. They're a completely different scenario than a tent with no sides, which is really just a cover, almost like a giant umbrella. So those winterized or all-season tents are quite different, and so we have asked our bylaw staff and others to review those. We've got a task force that will review them. You have to get a permit if it's above 60 meters in size. But we have created a grant program that will cover the cost. So you pay us, we'll reimburse you. That's the way we have to do it to get around the bonusing act, bonusing provisions of the Municipal Act. So we'll help you out. And then we're also, the task force will also look at, there are roughly 5 restaurants in downtown Burlington that are on city rights-of-way sidewalks. And on a case-by-case basis, we'll review whether we can keep those open and still do winter control and snow clearing and so forth. So those will be evaluated individually, and with the goal, the idea is to try to keep all of them ideally open if we can.
Now, a lot of these restaurants, do they want tents? Is there a lot of restaurants that do this?
So we had 59, I think it was, patios that went up post-COVID when we first started the program. And our program extended till the end of the year already. Now we've extended it further. There are, I don't know the citywide picture, but in downtown, of the 13 that were on city rights of way, only 5 of those are planning to keep their patios with some sort of tent structure open at this point during the winter. So it's not for every restaurant. I've heard from some saying, you know, the infrastructure costs and the hassle actually won't give me the payoff that I need. They're just going to make it work inside with inside dining. And so all the more reason why it's important for us to do everything we can to make sure those are safe so that they can stay open. Because, you know, businesses have said, if we have to go back to takeout, we're done. Like if it's takeout only, you know, a lot of them just said, like, we'll close. We just can't manage that. So
Doug said, absolutely not. That's what he said.
That's what he said. Well, you heard it. So
only definitive answer he gave me. So
did you have him on your show, or was this a private?
Oh no, it was on my show.
It was on your show. Yeah. Oh, good. So there's a record of it somewhere.
Yeah, there is a record. Yeah, they just go on. Just actually go on the In Halton the Instagram.
Okay, good. Oh, that's awesome that he came on. Good for him.
Yeah. So and also to 20, I think it's 22 degrees on Saturday. So enjoy the patio.
Exactly. It's beautiful today. A nice day out there. So
let's talk about. So I know there's been a couple of Halloween parties in other cities. I'm not going to mention any cities, but did Burlington give out any tickets for Halloween parties or during Halloween for social distance?
It was extremely quiet. It was very, very quiet. And the one street that sometimes gets upwards of 2,000 people on it had gone dark. Most of I think if not all of the residents decided to just go dark that year. And so there was no problems anywhere in the city. There were people out trick-or-treating. People had put food at the end of their driveway, but everyone I talked to was saying, you know, if they would normally get, you know, say 20 kids, they may have seen 2. So the numbers of trick-or-treaters were way down, but people found lots of ways to come together and celebrate in a creative way while still socially distance. And Halloween kind of really lends itself to that. You know, you can be outside, well apart from each other, not in an indoor space, you know, on somebody's driveway. I saw a party in a garage the other day. But, it was like a tailgate, but it was inside the garage.
Okay.
You know, and they were sitting around, they had their coats and hats on, and they were all spaced out in this double garage, and food in the center of the table. And that was how they were managing socially distant social gatherings. So good for them.
Cool. Let's talk about Remembrance Day. I think you guys are doing a virtual Remembrance Day, correct?
It is, for the general public, it will be virtual. There will be a small ceremony of invited only guests so that we don't go beyond 25, which is the limit for an outdoor gathering still in the province. So I will be there on behalf of the city and city council to show respect and honor and remember our veterans. and the Legion runs this, so they kind of chose and curated the guest list, but it will be live streamed, and the general public is being asked to watch along from home and not to come down. And of course, you can wear your poppy for the next little bit. That's another way of showing your support. Buy the poppy. That's a fundraiser. Go to the legion.ca, I think it is, webpage. You can buy Legion masks, other products, and support. And these are all fundraisers for Legions, and the Poppy campaign for sure funds community supports and services. So
cool.
It's all good.
Nice. We are 21 minutes into this interview, and I have no more questions left. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
Well, you haven't asked me what I'm going to eat for the weekend.
You know, what are you going to eat for the? Well, okay, let's talk about the craziness down south.
Let's talk.
Are you
about
watching?
It. Of course, I'm watching. So
okay.
I keep checking, but you know, some of it's too close to call in many respects. I mean, it looks like Joe Biden might be able to eke it out, but it's very, very close. And you know, I voted with my mail-in ballot, so I'm one of those folks that you better for sure count my ballot and all the others that were mailed in. We did it weeks ago to make sure it would get in before the deadline. So it was actually what's been inspiring, because I always look for the silver lining, as you know, is the turnout. The turnout is massive, massive. And people waiting hours in line to vote. I mean, that is a commitment to democracy. However they voted is up to them. And but the fact that they made the commitment to vote is really, really impressive. So that's the one positive I take out of the whole thing.
Yeah. I keep on joking around saying, you know, watching House of Cards, I always used to think that was far-fetched. Right, but if this was in a House of Card episode, it'd blow all the House of Card episodes away. So, anyways, I'm sure you watched House of Cards, right?
Oh yes.
Okay. So.
Yeah. No, it's you always got to look for the bright side, and the fact that so many people did vote by absentee or mail-in ballot, so people chose to the best way for them. Some lined up, but some decided, obviously, that wasn't something they wanted to do with COVID, and found another way to cast the ballot. So good for them. You know, people found what worked for them and participated, and you know, and it's great. That, you know, I'd love to see municipal elections go beyond 34% turnout one day.
True.
It hasn't gone. We could talk about ranked ballots if you want to. Speaking of democracy, but the Association of Municipalities of Ontario did a study recently and said that going as far back as 1988, and they didn't go farther back, our voter turnout has never cracked 50%.
Wow.
For municipal elections, it's averaged 45% across the province on average.
Wow.
So when we think about Remembrance Day, and we think about what our veterans were fighting for, the sacrifices that were made, so we would have the choice to choose our leaders, to choose a way to transition a change in leadership that is bloodless, that does not cause revolution, to allow the people to choose. You know, that's such a profound right and gift that we are going to honor and acknowledge on November 11th. And yet it is still hard to get folks to come out and cast a ballot in this country for a municipal election. And we don't get much above 55, 60% in federal or provincial elections.
True.
So, as I said, what has been inspiring to watch in the US is people, you know, absolutely committed to making their vote, their one vote count. Good for them.
Yeah, I think I heard the most votes since 1908, I believe.
Well, and that would have been, you know, heading into like global unrest, right? A world war was just about I love democracy, as you know, so I study this thing. The highest turnout, the highest voter turnout ever in a federal election in Canada was 1918. And the issue was conscription, 98% turnout. 98%. Wow. Crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. never even come close. But
Yeah.
you know, big issue.
Yeah.
Scary times, and you know, what could be a bigger issue. So, and you tend to see that voter turnout increases when there's a strong issue on the table or a strong race. But we do need to do better to respect our right to cast a ballot at all levels of government and elections.
We should do a podcast just on democracy for like 2 hours and get people to call in and stuff.
I would love it. I don't know how we would get people to
There's a lot of political junkies out there.
I am there. I will talk about that. And
Right.
actually, and speaking of democracy, we did at City Council pass another resolution asking the province not to take away local choice to determine electoral systems. So as you know, this week, probably tomorrow, they tucked in a provision that clawed back the right of municipalities to decide if they wanted to use ranked ballots. Whatever you feel about that issue, municipalities should have the right to consult with our public, and the public should have the right to choose whether they want to change or whether they don't want to change. So that was the resolution. Two of my colleagues brought that forward on Monday. It was unanimously supported. We sent that off to the province saying don't impose one system and remove the right for even having a conversation to change it.
Okay. I have Stephen and Andrew on tomorrow, so I could ask them what they think. So
definitely do. I can guess. Yeah, I can guess, but yeah, for sure, ask them.
Perfect. All right, it's 30 minutes in. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, have a good. Oh, what are you eating this week? Sorry, I forgot to ask that.
Not oysters, which I'm sad about.
Okay.
I actually did a run to the vegan pantry. It's a new store in Village Square, and got a bunch of frozen food that I could cook quickly. So, and it's been really good. So that's fun. Probably one of those will be tonight's entree.
Okay, cool. And I'll send you the link to when Doug Ford said what he said.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care, Colin.
Bye.
Bye.